everybody. I hope that you brought your lunch because we're going to go through for the rest of the day, and you're stuck here. I am Debbie Mack. I'm the Executive Director of IDPro, and I'd like to welcome you all to our plenary here at Identiverse. Round of hands, thank you. This is our very first plenary, and we're hopeful that we will continue to have plenaries. So please note that you were here for future reference. Before I sort of get started, can I get a show of hands of who is a member? Excellent. So for those of you who are not members, or as we like to call you, future members, IDPro is a professional association for identity and access management practitioners. Our mission is to globally foster ethics and excellence in the field of digital identity. And as you may have heard earlier from Sarah or even from Ian, one of the reasons why IDPro started was to give back to the community and to increase diversity and inclusion in the identity industry. And professionalizing identity should be our mission so that the next wave can benefit, our organizations can benefit, and our customers can benefit. So a little bit about what we've done. I'm happy to say that IDPro is now a 501c6. That happened recently, so it's very exciting. And since 2017, we've developed and fostered a very strong online and in-person community. We have over 200 individual members, 30 organizational members, and over 500 individual participants who interact mostly through discussion groups, IAM groups, on our very robust Slack channel, and apparently later on at the happy hour. We issue monthly newsletters with really interesting topics related to the identity space written by a lot of our member organizations. The last couple of newsletters have had articles about containerization, IAM and higher education, bot identity, and I can't remember what else. There are lots, but that's a sense of what you've got there. What we are hoping to do is become the end-all and be-all for all event information related to identity conferences and IAM groups. And so if you look on our website, you'll already see a very comprehensive list of IAM groups worldwide, as well as industry conferences. We have admittedly, a little bit of an anemic job board right now, where member organizations can post openings in their corporations and in their companies. But what we do have that is a little bit more active is an informal gigs channel on Slack, where individuals and members can also post openings and sort of look for new jobs. Some of you who are here may have taken advantage of the member-only industry conference registration discount codes that we've had in collaboration with EIC, Identiverse, and No. And in 2019 alone, we've had at least $10,000 of realized benefits to members. And you'll hear a little bit later, a little bit more about the second annual skills survey that we conducted. So I'd like to introduce Lance Peterman up to talk about who we are. He's our board member and treasurer. Actually, before I hand you the mic, okay? We talked a little bit about how IDPro is this awesome community, and so yesterday was Lance's birthday, and I'd like you to join us in singing happy birthday to Lance.
Should have known that was a trap.
Okay. Okay. Someone who sings can start. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lance. Happy birthday to you. Woo! Here you go.
Hey, John. It's his 12th birthday.
How many horses do you have? Do you have one? Do you have two?
Yeah, there's no spankings either. At my age, that would constitute torture. Thank you. You just made my face IDPro orange. So
You have a mic in your hand, too, by the way.
I do. Yeah, they need it for the AV. Sorry. As a former thespian, projection is not my challenge. But I do need to use the mic. So let's talk about who IDPro is. First, we want to thank our corporate and enterprise sponsors. If you happen to be on this board, could you raise your hand, please? I'm proud to say that Merck and from the pharmaceutical side, Merck and Eli Lilly are part of that. No pressure, Greg. But this doesn't happen without our corporate and our enterprise sponsors, and obviously our individual memberships as well. So thank you very much. That tote board is a little light. We have a couple of announcements that we can't do here because the legal stuff hasn't happened yet. But we got some pretty cool announcements. Probably see it in the July newsletter, I hope. So in terms of organizational member growth, I think for a fairly new organization, this is a fairly healthy line. And especially this year, adding some of the 5 larger sponsors that we've gotten has been really encouraging. And we expect that to continue into 2019. So when we take a look, you may have seen this from Sarah's and Heather's delightful keynote talk. Can we get another round of applause for that amazing job? One of the things that we called out in the skills survey was, how many years of experience do you have? And it's a great diversity. We obviously have some people who have probably forgotten more about identity than some of us know. And obviously we have a great mix of others as well, from 10 to 15 to 15 plus, 5 and 10. You get the idea. And I think this is great because everybody has something to share. And when we look at location, right now, obviously we are a little heavy in terms of North America. I think over time that's going to change. We are certainly looking to diversify that perspective because I think everybody would agree as we add to the diversity of viewpoints within the identity organization, I think we're only going to improve. And when we look at industries, again, we're obviously way across the board here. The largest category happens to be other. So that gives you a sense of who's contributing to this. In terms of number of employees, again, kind of across the board. Obviously, it is weighted a little bit heavier to maybe larger enterprise organizations. That's not that surprising. That's where you're going to see the heaviest footprint of identity professionals. But we have a nice diversity beyond that. And when we get to the experience piece, and this is where Sarah and I may differ a little bit, and that's the great thing about identity is we don't agree about a whole lot, right? But it's in a good way. She commented on that 24% of the members that responded said they still don't feel proficient in identity. I'm actually one of those people that answers that. And it's not in a bad way. Like I said, there are people that I talk to who have forgotten more about identity than I know. And I think that's awesome. But it also speaks to my mindset as a continuous learner. And it doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, if you say you're proficient, somehow you're not continuously learning. I think it's just more of an attitude. And I just want to honor those people who say they still don't feel proficient. That's a good thing. That means you feel like you're challenged to continue doing that. So the same thing with the people who do feel like they are proficient. The same is true. So I think that's just one of the things to bear in mind when maybe that might have been their mindset when they were looking at answering that question. And now I will hand it off to Ian Glazer to talk about what we have planned.
Cool. So another thing about the survey data that Lance talked about, and this is in the what we've planned, is the survey had 13 questions in it. We're planning on writing that up, and we'll put it into the newsletter and make it into a larger artifact. Because now that we've run the survey year over year for 2 years, and we'll continue to do so, we're actually pulling some really interesting insight into where practitioners are thinking about where they need to learn, right? So the 2 new questions we added for this year's survey was, what are the top 5 enterprise priorities for your organization, that you're the organizations you work with, and what's your top priorities in terms of what you want to learn? The interesting thing that came out of this was the 2 answer sets were completely different. So where enterprises were focused on things like MFA and user provisioning, individuals were interested in blockchain identity and IoT. Like those are the really far ends. The interesting thing was the place where they were both aligned was on customer identity management, where both priority sets seem to be in alignment. So we're gonna get more out of that survey over the years, and we'll get that out to the membership soon. So there's some things that we wanted to do that are still in development. Some of that you actually see happening today. So for example, IDPro helped curate the professional development track here at Identiverse, which will be on Friday. There's a bunch of really great content in there. We do similar things at EIC, and we'll continue to do that. We did that at NO as well, is to help sort of conferences bring more different kinds of content to help a well-rounded program. You heard Sarah and Heather talking about the body of knowledge, and we'll spend some time on that. George is going to come up and talk a little bit about that. Things we also want to do that go hand in hand with starting to help curate content at conferences is get speakers in there. There's a lot of amazing practitioners that don't always get a swing at the ball to go talk at an event because maybe it's not something they're comfortable doing, submitting a talk, for example, or working on an abstract. These are things that we want to help our membership with so that we get more of our members speaking at places. And as Heather talked about, certification is something that we want to get to. Now, we'll talk a little bit about some changes that the organization is making, but know that we haven't lost sight of the certification, although right now we're really building content in the body of knowledge. Very much we have our eyes looking ahead saying, like, we do know we have to get the certification out there. It's going to take some time because we have to get it right. If we come out of the gate with a weak certification, if something that's really just a rubber stamp, that doesn't do anybody, both as members and non-members, any benefit. So we've really got to focus on that. Now, one of the things that you may not be aware of, we've done a little bit of publicizing this, is how the board actually plans what we do and how do we prioritize. So the board uses something that we do at Salesforce called a V2 Mom. And V2 Mom is at Salesforce, literally from Mark Benioff, from our CEO, all the way down. Everybody uses this model to actually plan and align. And it's something that the company's always done. And it's all public. It's always very transparent about what priorities are and how we structure them. So V2 Mom is visions, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. And so first we have an alignment on our vision. Then we have a shared set of values. And then we talk about what are the methods we are going to employ to achieve our vision. What obstacles do we face to do that? And what are the measures? What are essentially for each method? What are the individual things that we can measure to do to get that job done? So the board goes through this exercise every year. Our vision has stayed consistent. This is something that's up on the website, but it really centers around the practice and building practitioners, right? How do we do this? How do we bring this so that we can be the tide that lifts all boats? How can we help grow this industry? How can we grow as practitioners? And our values, similarly, are things that are going to support us in doing this, right? These are the things that say, okay, our vision changes over time, but what we value, that shouldn't change as often, right? That should be some consistency about who this organization is, and it should be essentially burned into our DNA. Now, the thing that does change year to year, and even sometimes more frequently than that, because the V2 Mom is a living document, are our methods. We have 4 methods, and fun tradition at Salesforce, just share some inside baseball. Every list that is presented as a bullet list is assumed to be in priority order. So if for any reason you end up, I don't know, getting acquired by Salesforce, because we seem to be doing that lately, every bullet list is in priority order, and you will be asked if it is. And you can get called out, like by a co-founder who'll be like, oh, is that bullet list in order? And if you say no, he'll be like, great, that's cool. I'll help you bullet sort it. And we will bubble sort in public. And I've seen executives do this, like forcing you to make hard trade-offs. So our methods are actually priority order sorted. First and foremost is the body of knowledge and certification. We know that this is just so crucial, not just for the organization, but for the industry. And that's where we are devoting board resource. We've hired Heather as our principal editor to build a sustainable process for making the body of knowledge. Right? It would not have been sufficient to simply solicit for some articles, throw it in a PDF, put it on the website. That wouldn't have done anything really important in the industry. What's important is to build a process for how we make a vendor-neutral, living body of knowledge that we all can benefit from. So the next method that we have is membership. This is about delivering membership engagement helping to grow our membership, helping to make sure that our members get more out of what they have. And hiding in here is also marketing efforts, right? One of the things, as Sarah and Heather talked about, is we are a bit of a word of mouth organization. It is hard to conquer the world with stickers, but we are trying. But we're also trying to actually build more of a presence from a marketing perspective for outreach, right? There's a lot of benefit that non-members get by the fact they're members, right? That there happens to be a curated list of meetups around the world. There's a common good for everyone that they can share. So these are the kinds of outreach things that we want to do to make sure people are more aware of that. Third method we have is services, making sure that we are delivering more services to membership, thus driving more value for our members. And this is separated from the body of knowledge, right? So this is a different sort of set of things. So for example, the Slack workspace is a good example of that, but other things that we can do to help put more value in our members' hands. And last but not least is industry alliances. We're a small organization, and there's a lot of other small organizations out there that have different missions, but at the end of the day, we're all working towards a common place of let's better this industry. Some people are doing it through technical standards. Some people are doing that through increasing diversity in the industry. And so we're trying to align ourselves with these organizations to help for the common good. Now, specific to that, a couple of examples here. So last week, the week before, let's go with the week before, Andy and I were in London at Identity Week to help with the Women in Identity's formal launch. So Women in Identity, if you don't know who they are, is a relatively new organization of a lot of amazing people in our industry, and is free to join. So you should go check out womeninidentity.org. Is it .org, right? Yes, thank you. And so we're helping it launch with them, but we've been an ally and partner for them since the very beginning. Sarah talked about this in the keynote, which is the amount of content, of curriculum for undergraduates in identity management is basically zero. And so that's actually why we're working with DIAC. They are helping to work with University of Washington and Canadian government to start trying to pull together curriculum that can be used at the undergraduate level to actually get a little bit more awareness about what identity is. At least we've got to start building this pipeline. One of the reasons why I started working on this idea of IDPro was I came to these conferences. I know many of you. I see you at all these places. And I just kept thinking, where's everybody else? Like, who's next? Who's that next wave of professionals? How do we build more of them? And so working with people like DIAC helps us to start getting awareness of what identity is at much earlier in the learning process. And so we align ourselves with different organizations to do other things. Like, for example, we work with Carpenter Cole, who analyst firm. They actually happen to be a member, but we're working with them so that they can actually donate some of their research for free to members. So there was a great deal of interest, I'd say about 7 months ago, in the work on Slack around some blockchain analysis that Carpenter Cole had done. We got them to be able to donate that material so members have access to it. So we have different kinds of alliances to help deliver different kinds of outcomes. With that, I'm going to have Lance come back up because he's our treasurer. We thought it'd be important for membership to understand where money is flowing into, how does the organization get funded, and where is it going to, so you understand what your membership is going to fund. And with that, thank you, sir. Hot potato.
Potato. Okay. This without the embarrassment of the birthday song. No, not necessary. Thank you. Much appreciated. Obviously, as I mentioned, with respect to the membership, none of this happens without you. So let's take a look at kind of where money's coming in from and then where's it going. These are projected budgets. So part of this deals with some of the asks that we're going to have at the end of the session about driving membership. So this is projected income that we're talking about. 69% of it is going to come from corporate members. So it's kind of understandable. It's the industry that's going to help drive this. But one of the things that we make a constant effort, and this is reflected also in the composition of our board, is a balance between those that are practicing identity and those who are helping create identity products. And this gets reflected in here. So 69% of that comes from corporate. 10% of that comes from enterprise. I expect that to grow over the next year, hopefully considerably. because I think especially some of the larger enterprise organizations realize that if we get more than 5 IDPro members, maybe it makes sense to make that jump into an enterprise membership, and we think it's priced pretty competitively. And then 18% comes from individuals, and then 3% comes from group. And I think that is small, partly, I don't think we advertise group memberships really well. So nonprofits in particular are in that group category. So if you do know nonprofits who do identity or just have identity members on their team, that could be an opportunity for them to participate. That also includes government agencies as well. So with that in mind, try again. Where's that money going? And so this breaks down pretty self-evidently. 51% of that is management support and keeping this organization running from a day-to-day, maintaining contacts. And then coupled with that is the 12% administration. There's a partner that we work with to make sure that we pay our bills, basically. And then, as you can see, 24% of the revenue that comes in from membership goes directly towards helping create the BOC. And I think our hope is long-term that number may grow a little bit. If not in percentage, certainly in actual numbers. And then 13%, as Ian mentioned, we're still kind of bordering that area where we're still largely word of mouth, but we're trying to get some of that systemic broadcast capability, for example, leveraging social media a little bit more. Right now, it is literally managed between the board and Debbie in doing that, and they do a lion's share of that work, and it's effective, but it also needs volume and opportunity to amplify. And with that, I will hand this off to Hutch to talk about what's new.
Thanks. So Ian's talked about things that we've got planned, but we've got one pretty big thing that's new. IDPro, at the beginning, we agreed we were going to be a working board, that we needed to have dedicated people who were going to make sure that the programs were going to continue to drive forward. There's a lot of work that has to be done. There's a lot of places where we're trying to expand. So we want to be able to grow beyond the current board membership that we had. So one of the things we did last week was vote to expand the board from 7 to 9. And to do that, we needed to bring on 3 new people. I know that sounds like bad math, but bear with me for a moment. So first, I think you know them, let me just recognize real quick the people who are on the board. So we have Ian, we've got George and Sarah and Lance and Alan Foster, who is our Industry Alliance member from Gantara. Debbie, again, our executive director. Did I miss somebody? Andy. Sorry. Andy, who's racing around the facility. So we had an election on Monday. Before I announce who they were, I would like to take a moment to thank our nominating committee, who we got to finally utilize, who did a tremendous amount of work to vet not only the candidates who put themselves forward for nomination, but people who had nominated them. They went and gathered information. We did follow-up questioning. There was a lot of information, and there was a lot of discussion about that. So I would now like to announce not just our current board members, but our existing new 3 board members. So Elizabeth Ramirez, if you can stand up. Janelle Allen. And John Lettinen. I'm pretty sure none of them know what they are getting into. No, I'm sorry, I called you Sarah Squire again. Sarah Squire Cacchetti. I'm still getting used to that name. So these are the, also we have, you're nominated for their 2-year periods, but we had a stint where during the initial board membership, we rolled dice to see who would have an initial 1-year term and who would have a 2-year term. So Lance and I actually got 2-year terms, and everybody else had a 1-year term. So hopefully I think we're at a 5-4 now. So we're also not going to be swapping out, when we go through board re-elections and everything, we won't be swapping out the whole board. But it did mean that we also re-elected to a new term, Ian and Andy and George and Sarah. So congratulations, everybody. I also, this is where the math comes back in. So ALLAN has graciously given of his time during the initial period of the board. Again, representing Kantara. Kantara Initiative is the group that incubated us. They, as part of the agreement for separation, we brought ALLAN on board to, again, give his advice, his incredible amount of time and resources. He's been incredibly generous to our organization, and I think it's safe to say, and I think everybody on the board would agree with me, that we would not be in the position that we're in if it weren't for his guidance and his contributions to the thing. So he is, however, leaving us now and becomes our first board member emeritus. So if I could just have everybody please help me in thanking Alan Foster for all his work. And now to George.
So I'm the guy who has been trying to pull the body of knowledge off. So it's a body of knowledge. It's often called a book of knowledge. And I think when I first started, I thought it was going to be a book of knowledge, but it's we can't do that quickly. So we're gonna take an approach of serializing this, and we'll start this. I think we're in a good position now where, with Heather on board and the committee up and running, getting some content in, we'll start to see some publication in the next few months, I'm hoping. And as Heather mentioned at the big meeting this morning, the idea is to do that throughout the year and then compile it together into sort of an edition for that year. And it may take a few years to get it all covered, but it's starting to feel like it's going to click now. So I'm optimistic, and thanks for the kick in the pants this morning from Sarah and Heather. So that's good. Certification was always envisioned as a follow-on to the body of knowledge, but I think we're going to need to find some way to do something that doesn't get us trapped into a corner, but also deliver some value. So I think one of the thoughts with the new board being seated is to get some more attention on the certification side. So don't have the answers there, but I expect to see some movement on that in this upcoming year. There is a face-to-face meeting for the Body of Knowledge Committee at 3 o'clock today. If anybody wants to come, we're always looking for new people to help. It is one of these things where if you have any bandwidth or any aptitude or an interest, I will personally try to find a place where you can make a contribution. So please come, and I'll give a little more detail about where we are at that meeting as well. So there you have it.
Thank you. So to George's point, because we are expanding the board, one of the reasons why is that we feel we need more hands working on the problem at a board level, and that we can also then use that not just as someone to focus on, say, a CPE program or a certification program, but also to help recruit other members. So full disclosure, I have not been involved in the body of knowledge meetings, and I'm going to get to go to my first one today. I'm super excited. But we do have critical needs. If you don't know the board members that have been up here speaking today, they're all identity practitioners, just like you are. And in some regards, we are all making it up as we go along running this organization. That means that things are new and learning experiences for all of us. And one of the things that we all have alignment in our hearts of where we want to get to, which is we want to get to this great, thriving organization that helps our industry grow. And we know the body of knowledge and certification is part and parcel to that. But I think in some regards, our practitioner minds of like, well, heck, I could stand up Tivoli Identity Manager in 36 hours. How hard can this Bach thing be? Yeah, see, it was bigger than we thought. And we're all volunteers, right? In terms of the people that are working on not just the body of knowledge, helping to organize meetups, helping to write newsletters. We're all volunteers. And many of the people that are doing this well, all of us are really busy, right? So it's taking more time than we wanted. And then one of the reasons why this is up here is, the reason why we're driving so hard for membership is, I believe we actually need to generate more revenue so that we can pay subject matter experts to write portions of the body of knowledge. Now that will go through the process that Heather and the committee have built to ensure it's vendor neutral, it's accurate, it's maintainable. And so we can imagine that us as practitioners become those shepherds, become the review committees on this content. But I'd love to have a couple of dollars to hire someone to write about access certification or write about fundamentals and federation. If we can't find a member who has the time to do it, I'd like the opportunity to be able to pay someone to do that. And this is one of the big reasons of why we're really pushing for membership right now is with a few more dollars, we can actually start to do these things. And we always need more contribution. I want to be very clear. We have some amazingly dedicated members, and that dedication manifests itself in a willingness to stand for the board, in a willingness to come to body of knowledge meetings in a super inconvenient time zone because it's just a part of passion. Or it's someone who wants to keep driving content in the Slack workspace. So all of us are contributing in different ways. Yesterday at the show floor, a lot of people came up and said, hey, I'm a member, but I'm not doing as much as I would like to be able to. And that was a constant theme. And what it was really a recognition of, damn, we're all busy, right? And so even in just saying that, it shows like, yeah, I've got this industry on my mind. I want to give back. I want to find other ways to do that. So us growing membership is a way of us getting more resource to help deliver more membership services faster. That's the equation. That's why we wanted to share the budget information, for example. So you've already made a commitment. You're here enjoying the luxurious air conditioning in an underground bunker. That's pretty dedicated. But you also are amazing influencers in your organizations, in your communities, in your meetups. And so anything that you can do to help, we need that help, and we appreciate that help deeply. Now, fun things, because we're always interested in this industry and pushing the extremes. And so one way we're going to do that is first we're going to freeze you to death down here. And then tonight at 6:30, we're going to put you on a rooftop in DC, and it's going to be 94 degrees. And we're going to see if your laptops actually crack because of thermal stress. So there's a happy hour tonight at Jack Rose. It's a couple of blocks away. It has a phenomenal view off the roof. We have the whole roof to ourselves. It's going to be awesome. Some of you may be on the wait list for registration. We actually hit sort of like fire marshal. No, seriously, this place is full. Stay tuned. But another reason why we need members or becoming a member is it's a foot pedal now. You get to hear about things like the happy hour sooner than everyone else does. So love to see everyone tonight. And we've thrown a lot at you. So want to make sure that there's an opportunity for Q&A. So if there's questions, if there's concerns, if there's even the basic stuff like, I think I'm a member, but I'm not sure if I'm getting the newsletter or I'm in Slack, like, this is an opportunity to chat, not just to me, but to the entire board and amongst each other. So who's going to break the permafrost? Gentleman right there. Hold on, there's a mic appearing now.
So I guess the question I have is, what kind of skill level are you looking for in terms of membership, contributors, things like that?
Do you have a pulse?
Yeah, basically.
Hey, hold on, let me check.
Have you ever been raised from the dead?
Not recently.
Great, you're our guy. Okay, I kid a little bit, but actually it matters. Here's the thing. I believe that sometimes relative beginners are the best teachers of beginners because you most recently stubbed your toe on something that someone else is going to stub their toe on. And so it doesn't need to be a formal thing, but simply I'm in the Slack workspace and someone's asking a question about like, has anyone ever tried to run this configuration? And if you're struggling with it, just simply saying, no, but I'm struggling with that too, or I have the same question. There is something amazingly powerful about that. Now that said, if you happen to be, I don't know, the person that wrote like many OAuth profiles and has been looking at DID authentication for OpenID Connect, George, like someone who's like, a God level sort of, amazing deity in the world, that's great too. But every skill level, every experience level has value interaction. And honestly, I'm way more interested in people that are just beginning and figuring it out because the problems are newer, the pain is more extreme, the despair is more earnest, but also that's an opportunity to be like, hey, all you salty veterans, you're crazy for why are we doing it like this? Like, why does this seem, I've been told X is an industry best practice, but it seems like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Why are we doing this? That's so powerful. And so another reason why, when Sarah and I were thinking about all of this years ago, was like, where are those people and how do we make a comfortable space for them to be a beginner, right? Because if you roll into, I'll pick an extreme, you roll into like an IETF meeting to talk about standard stuff, it's a pretty high bar. Full disclosure, I've never got the gumption up to go to an IETF meeting. So like there's that. But if you then go to a conference, well, not everyone can get there. Not everyone has the T&E budget to get there. Like, how do we find that safe space where people can be beginners with each other? That's really one of the big things for me on a personal level. That's what I'm trying to do with the organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Other questions? Back of that away.
Has there been any consideration for people not necessarily doing membership dues, but contributing, right? So contribute X amount of papers or opinions or feedback rather than membership dues? Yeah,
so that's a really good question. It is two things. We have board meetings twice a month. The beginning of the month is a strategic meeting, and the end of the month is an operational meeting. Our last strategic meeting was the beginning of June, and we had a long conversation about concerns some members had raised about progress on the body of knowledge, which then morphed into what about certification, what about other programs? One of the things that we have been, I would say, early days kicking around is a combination of what does a continuing professional education program look like? Is there a way that you essentially could earn CPE credit for attending a session in Identiverse? And can we use that as a way, as contribution? Can you generate CPE for contributing to the BOC, for example, or for fostering a meetup, and then use that as in lieu of membership? So that's something that we are actively conversing about. I think what's going to happen next is the following. The first strategic board meeting for the new board is June, July, good month, yes, 10th-ish, 11th-ish. So John, Janelle, Elizabeth, Wednesday, second week in July, like it's coming. We want to seat the board and we want to talk through the big items that are in the V2 MOM that we want to work on. Right. Certification, we're gonna definitely dedicate a board member to. I want that person to think about CPE, an in-kind, essentially donation of time. So those are kind of next up topics for the board. I'd like to dedicate at least one board member to that to focus on that. So that is in progress. Other questions? All right, so let's do this. It's cold in here. And I think the only way to raise the temperature is for me to stop spouting hot air because I'm just one person, but you all to talk amongst each other. So there's probably people in this room you don't know. I know there are people in your same industry in this room. There are strangers in this room. Take a little time to meet them, right? You took some time out of your day to travel here, come to this conference, but take time out of the conference to come and sit here. And I'm deeply appreciative of it, but you should meet one another. So with that, let's just network a little bit. Thank you, everyone.